some to think that they did something wrong and started over with a new character, only for it to happen again. So this is unnecessary frustration. And how did we improve it? Did we get rid of the marshal? Did we do something else? Like, did we change the mechanics of this? No, we just rephrased the message. Like, just by rephrasing the messages, pre and post explosion, we have changed the experience significantly. The phrasing no longer implies that this was the player's fault. And this is not really a positive experience yet. This is more neutral, but it's not negative. No, that the player doesn't really feel like they lost something. So instead of saying, save the ship, just investigate the distress signal. And after the marshal explodes, they're like, oh, well, the vessel's already been destroyed, but we may still be able to recover the data. Some other stuff we did, we changed the tutorial UI. In the old tutorial UI, it was unclear which operation you were currently on. So an operation is one of those nodes there, and an operation is can be a series of tasks. It was unclear which you were currently on, which you had finished, and which you had not. The user interface is different from the rest of the agency. The rest of the agency has a big blue button. This one's green. It has different icons, all that jazz. And there is an unnecessary confusing choice of career ratings at the bottom. The 4 nodes at the bottom there, they make you choose a career, and all of them do the same thing. They just point you to the career ratings page where you have to make the choice again. So that's kind of weird. And the biggest problem was that the last operation is automatically selected if you have no operation active. And because of that, a big replay button is prompting the player to replay the same mission again. So this button was actually a big concern and a smoking gun when it comes to why players were quitting almost immediately after starting the tutorial. After theorizing that this was a big problem, we dove into the data and found out some striking facts. We found out that people who repeat a mission are very likely to drop out, as in quit the game and never come back, ranging from 64% if they repeat the first operation, down to a still terrible 53% if they repeat the final operation. Moreover, an overwhelming percentage of repeats were happening within the same day, which was odd, considering that repeating an operation was mostly thought of for players that might be logging in again after a long vacation from New Eden. So what did we do? We started by just automatically selecting the next operation in line. This required some data structure refactoring, but it was totally worth it. But therefore, we're not showing the replay button right away, and the amount of replays went down drastically, enough for us to just remove it entirely. So these are not players who just don't get it and replay the mission willingly. These were accidents, and frustrating ones at that. So we changed it, the entire UI, quite a bit. You can no longer replay a mission at all. We updated the UI representing operations. Now, using check marks and locks and colors, it is much clearer now which operation is completed, active, and locked. We merged career agent operations into one. Less choice, less brain power that the user must spend. The choice didn't even matter. Like I said, you had to choose on a career agent again later. And the agency will now automatically close after having activated a new operation, telling the player that the agency time is over now, time to play the game. And as part of this, we also changed the way players receive rewards. Berger touched on this in the keynote. This was actually a pretty big problem. We could play the tutorial and get the rewards and not really know about it. We used to just give you the rewards instantly, and that would often go unnoticed by a player who is just getting used to the UI. As we know, EVE has a lot of UI and a lot of notifications are popping up, and it's easy to miss, especially as a new player. And we even used to give the player some skills that we didn't even notify the player about, just totally behind the scenes. So we changed the rewards to be mostly ISK and/or modules, bringing the skills we would have given you into the starting skill set. Now the player must claim the rewards themselves in the agency, which they are directed to go after every completed operation. This is much more visceral, it feels nicer, and the player knows what they're getting. So immediately after you claim the rewards, you can see the wallet update, you can see your skills, and you can see the inventory update if you get your possibly new modules. And after you claim the rewards, the next operation is selected and highlighted. We also changed the aura dialogues quite a bit. The text in them was ambiguous at times, so we made them easier to understand and digest, using more common language and less EVE-specific language that new players wouldn't really know anyway. We added hotkeys to the instructions as well, to get the new players acquainted with them early on. They often went missed. And for legibility, we increased the font size, and we fade in the text blocks one by one. So players were also struggling to recognize buttons in the info panel. Berger mentioned this as well. They just don't look like buttons. They look like instructions. So we made these buttons much more prominent. They should now prompt the user to perform the necessary action immediately without having to dig through our right-click menu or anything like that. Just click it. And for good measure, we made these buttons have instant feedback. So the user knows they have performed the action and just need to wait. We have multiple states designed to help the player realize what is happening and what they should do next. So we have warping, docking, aligning, approaching, some more. And we have over 20 more changes done to the tutorial. This is not counting defects and little things we changed to enhance the experience. Like we removed mining laser from the starting ship. This was confusing for new players. We were telling them to activate your primary weapons, and they look at their HUD and they see two things that look like guns. Just trying to mine an NPC and it's not working.